This story will blow your mind. It starts as a classic love tale, but spirals into a dark, twisting psychological thriller full of gaslighting, buried secrets, impossible betrayals, and a final revelation that will leave you questioning what's real. Buckle up, read slowly, and stay until the very end. You won't see the last twist coming. Shadows of deception. Sophia stared at the flickering candlelight dancing across the table, her fingers intertwined with Marcus's. It was their 5th anniversary, and the small Italian restaurant in the heart of the city felt like their private sanctuary. The aroma of garlic and fresh basil filled the air, mingling with the soft murmur of other diners and the occasional clink of wine glasses. Marcus's eyes, deep brown and always so intense, locked onto hers with that familiar, almost hypnotic warmth. "To us," he toasted, clinking his glass against hers. "The best thing that's ever happened to me." He squeezed her hand, his thumb tracing slow, deliberate circles on her skin, a gesture that always sent shivers racing down her spine. She smiled, her heart swelling despite the faint, nagging unease that had been growing for weeks. Marcus was everything. A successful architect whose sleek, modern designs graced city skylines, a devoted partner who left handwritten notes tucked into her coat pockets, the man who could make her laugh until tears streamed down her face. Their life together seemed perfect on the surface. Weekend hikes through misty mountain trails where they shared thermoses of hot coffee and dreams. Lazy Sundays tangled in white sheets binge-watching old black and white films. Quiet nights whispering about a future filled with children and a cozy house by a glassy lake. But lately something felt off. His business trips had multiplied. Short absences turning into grueling, multi-week disappearances. "Just sealing big deals," he'd say casually, kissing her forehead before wheeling his suitcase into the airport crowd, his silhouette swallowed by travelers. That night, as they made love in their high-ceilinged loft apartment overlooking the glittering city lights, Sophia tried to silence the doubts. His touch was urgent, almost frantic, hands roaming every curve of her body, lips trailing fire along her collarbone and throat. "I love you more than anything," he whispered hoarsely, his breath hot against her neck, his body pressing into hers with desperation that bordered on possession. In the afterglow, she traced a familiar scar on his left shoulder, the one from the childhood bike accident he described in vivid, painful detail years ago, and let herself believe. She had to. The first real fracture came 2 weeks later. Marcus was packing again for another trip to Chicago, supposedly a critical client meeting for a towering new skyscraper project. His phone buzzed on the nightstand, screen lighting the dim bedroom. Sophia wasn't the type to invade privacy. Trust had always been their unspoken contract. But the preview message sliced through her like glass. "Can't wait to see you and Little J, love. A." Her stomach lurched. Who was A? And Little J? Marcus stepped out of the bathroom, towel low on his hips, water still beating on his chest. "Everything okay?" he asked, noticing the sudden pallor on her face. "Yeah, just your phone. Probably spam." The laugh she forced sounded brittle even to her own ears. He snatched the device too quickly and slipped it into his pocket with practiced nonchalance. "Gotta run, babe. I'll call when I land." A quick peck on the cheek, lingering just a heartbeat longer than usual, and then the door clicked shut behind him. That night, the empty side of the bed felt like a grave. By dawn, obsession had taken root. She opened their shared cloud account on her laptop, hands trembling. At first, nothing. Mundane receipts, vacation photos, architectural sketches. Then, deep inside a folder labeled work receipts, she found the bomb, a scanned birth certificate. Jackson Reed, born 3 years earlier. Father, Marcus Reed. Mother, Amelia Voss. The room spun. Reed was Marcus's last name. No mistake possible. She dug deeper, heart hammering. Hidden subfolders spilled secrets. Marcus laughing on a sunlit beach, arms slung around a beautiful blonde woman. Marcus cradling a toddler with his exact brown eyes. The child clutching a bright red toy truck. Every timestamp aligned perfectly with his Chicago absences. But here the first psychological fracture appeared. As she stared at the images, doubts slithered in. Was that really him? The beach photo was slightly grainy, shadows long and strange. Hadn't he once joked, half drunk on red wine. About a twin brother he never spoke of again? Or had she dreamed that? Her therapist's calm voice echoed. Stress can distort reality, Sophia. Remember your episodes. Years earlier, after a brutal miscarriage, postpartum depression had swallowed her whole. Hallucinations. Shadows moving in empty corners. Whispers when no one was there. Medication and therapy had pulled her back, but the fear of slipping again never fully left. Was this relapse? A cruel trick of her own mind? She swallowed a pill, hands shaking, but the evidence refused to vanish. Bank transfers to a Seattle account. Flight records. Access to a shady app she downloaded at 3 a.m., showing reroutes to the West Coast every single time he claimed Chicago. She booked a flight to Seattle that weekend. The descent through storm clouds felt symbolic. Rain lashing plane windows like tears she refused to cry. She rented a plain gray sedan, parked a block from the address pulled from public records. The house was painfully ordinary. White picket fence, child swing set swaying in the drizzle, plastic toys bright against wet grass. She waited hours, binoculars fogging. Then the front door opened. Marcus stepped out, duffel over one shoulder, scooping up a laughing toddler, Jackson, into his arms. The blonde woman, Amelia, followed, wrapping herself around him, kissing him deeply while her fingers curled possessively into his shirt. "Daddy's home," the boy squealed. Sophia's breath stopped. It was real, visceral, undeniable. All the late-night texts about jet lag, all the exhausted collapses into bed, all the tender I love yous after long absences. There were lies performed for her while he lived an entire other life here. As she drove away, rain blurring the windshield, she glanced in the rear-view mirror and froze. For one impossible second, Marcus's eyes seemed to meet hers through the distance and glass. Paranoia? Hallucination? Or had he seen her? That night in a cheap motel room, she bolted the door 3 times and still heard footsteps outside. She dreamed of his voice murmuring through the thin walls. "You're imagining this, love. Come home." She woke, gasping, checked every lock again. Back in their city, she planted a tiny GPS tracker inside the lining of a suitcase. The next Chicago trip that veered west, straight to that Seattle house. But the gaslighting began in earnest. Marcus returned early one evening and caught her staring at the tracking app. "What's this?" he asked softly, concern creasing his brow. "Sophia, are you okay? You've been so distant. Is it the medication again? You know it can mess with perception." She wavered. "I saw Seattle. Her." He sighed, pulled her close. His embrace felt safe and suffocating at once. "Babe, it's Chicago. Always Chicago. Maybe we should see Dr. Hale together." His grip on her upper arms tightened, just enough to notice. Had he deleted the cloud files? She checked later. They were gone. Wiped clean. One stormy night, she discovered a hidden wall safe behind a loose panel in the closet. Inside, 2 passports. Marcus Reed and Mark Voss, Amelia's surname. Vegas wedding certificate dated 4 years ago, months before he proposed to her on a star-drenched rooftop. Bigamy. Flashbacks assaulted her. Their first kiss under fireworks, real or planted memory. Her journal pages started disappearing. Marcus found her clutching the book one morning. "You must have torn them out in your sleep, darling. You've been restless." Anonymous calls began. Silence, then breathing, then hang up. A black sedan followed her twice through rain-slick streets. Once she accelerated through a red light to lose it, pulse roaring in her ears. She confronted him under the kitchen's harsh lights. "Who's Amelia?" Color drained from his face. "Sophia, you're scaring me. There is no Amelia. Let me get you help." She threw photos at him. "I saw you. With your son. Your wife." He crumpled. Then his eyes darkened. "You think you saw. But remember the miscarriage? The shadows? The voices? You're doing it again." Doubt cracked her open. But she stole a strand of Jackson's hair on a reckless second trip to Seattle. DNA results arrived by mail, not Marcus's child. Amelia had lied too. She told him over a candlelit dinner that mocked their anniversary. "Jackson isn't even yours." His fork clattered. Rage flared. You have no idea what I protected you from. He lunged across the table. Glass shattered. She grabbed a knife. Pure instinct. Stay back. She fled into the storm, called police from a cab. Sirens came fast. In court, Marcus painted her as the unstable one. Amelia testified remotely. She's delusional. She stalked my family. But the evidence, passports, financial trails, tracker logs, was overwhelming. He was arrested for bigamy, fraud, assault. Sophia won, but victory tasted like ash. Months later, rebuilding alone, an anonymous letter arrived. I never lied. You built Amelia in your mind to explain why I was pulling away. You needed the drama. Forgive me, M. She checked old medical files obsessively. Buried notes from years ago. During one episode, she'd suspected infidelity and repressed it completely. Had parts of this nightmare been self-inflicted? Dissociative fragments she'd never recovered? Years passed. A knock at her new apartment door. A tall teenage boy stood there, Jackson. And Sophia? Dad, before he disappeared for good, said you were the one who saved us from all the lies. She hugged him, tears burning. But as he walked away, she noticed the black sedan idling across the street again. Same model, same tinted windows. Watching. The shadows of deception never truly lifted. They simply waited for the next crack in her reality. And somewhere, she still heard his voice in quiet moments. You're imagining this, love. The end. And there it ends. Or does it? Sophia still wakes up some nights reaching for a hand that isn't there. Marcus's hand. Or perhaps the version of herself she used to be before the shadows moved in. The black sedan hasn't reappeared in years, but she still checks her rear-view mirror every time she drives. She still double-locks the door. She still wonders in the quietest moments how much of the nightmare she wrote herself. Because the most terrifying part isn't the lies he told. It's realizing that sometimes we cling to the illusion so fiercely that we help build a cage around ourselves. What would you have done in her place? Would you have believed your own eyes or your own mind? Thank you for listening all the way to the end. Stories like this only work because someone stays until the final twist. If this one kept you up, heart racing, questioning everything, please follow our channel and subscribe for more. More mind-bending thrillers, more psychological knives, more endings that refuse to let you go. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. The next shadow is already waiting. See you in the dark.